Now, like me, you may have woken up on Monday morning to the news that Donald Trump's criminal case on charges that he illegally retained classified documents at Mar-a-Lago was dismissed after the presiding judge, a MAGA Republican judge who was installed by the former president, has sided with Donald Trump and ruled that the special counsel who brought the prosecution had been improperly appointed. Incidentally, that theory is a conspiracy that has been created by the far right and MAGA Republicans, and indeed, Judge Aileen Cannon has taken that on. And if you had any questions about her political allegiance, well, then you don't now. The U.S. District Judge appointed by Trump himself found that the appointment of Jack Smith as special counsel violated the U.S. Constitution, as he'd not been named to his post by the president or confirmed by the Senate. Cannon effectively ruled that there was no statute that authorized a special counsel to bring charges in the Trump case, and previous court rulings, including by the U.S. Supreme Court in the landmark Richard Nixon case, were not binding on her decision. She wrote in her 93-page decision, "Because special counsel Smith's exercise of prosecutorial power has not been authorized by law, the court sees no way forward, aside from dismissal of the superseding indictment." So, you may be very disappointed by this. You may be feeling disheartened, especially as the news comes just 48 hours almost after Donald Trump had an attempted assassination upon him. And so if you are somebody who advocates for freedom, for democracy, and for Democrats, you might think, well, this is very sad because Donald Trump is clearly having a bit of a winning streak by both evading death and getting his face on every newspaper around the world, pumping the air, and the fact that the very next day, the judge appointed by him, Judge Aileen Cannon, dismisses the case, the case that was actually most likely to get Trump prosecuted, on the Espionage Act, to actually steal classified documents. He wasn't the president anymore. He took these documents. He concealed them in his own public venue where the public can come and rent space, they can buy membership, they can have their weddings there, and therefore to have all these documents stored in the bathroom and in the ballroom and in Donald Trump's office and just, scattered around the building suggests that he did not take his responsibilities seriously as a former president, and with these documents, many of which were marked top secret or eyes only. And so, it's a very, very serious case. It was absolutely the one that was going to get Trump prosecuted, and yet in this moment, all seems lost. Well, not all, and let me tell you why. Firstly, Jack Smith can now appeal this decision, and he can also take this case to the 11th Circuit and have more suitable judges hear this case. It's pretty open and shut from a legal perspective, but unfortunately, as we know, having politically appointed judges means that they will do anything to circumnavigate the law. And we've seen that with the MAGA Supreme Court giving Donald Trump and presidents immunity from prosecution. All of these things are an example of what America will be like under a future Donald Trump administration, where the rule of law is not worth the paper it's printed on, and the judiciary is corrupted by the far right, and they're all effectively working for the president, who himself is immune from prosecution. I mean, just think about that. What I'm describing is what will happen under a Donald Trump presidency. Half of it is already happening. It's a reality. It's not just a dystopian nightmare in the future. It is our present, and that is whilst Joe Biden is president. This is the pox left over from Donald Trump's tenure in installing these three MAGA judges into the Supreme Court, as well as these lower court judges such as Aileen Cannon, who owe him a debt of gratitude. And as you know, Donald Trump is the kind of person who, seeks retribution, an eye for an eye. Undoubtedly, Judge Aileen Cannon, if Trump was to win, will be installed as a future Supreme Court justice under Donald Trump because she bailed him out. But my thinking about why all is not lost is very simple. Just because Trump is on all the newspapers in this image, this kind of moment where he's pumping the air and blood on the ear, and, it's very dramatic, of course it is. And yes, it's going to make people feel like he suddenly is the center of attention. That was his intention when he delayed his removal from the stage to get that photo. But this case and that image and the reaction to the shooting on Saturday, none of these things would encourage more people to vote for Donald Trump. And you have to understand that. Donald Trump, as I maintain, is not popular. He struggles to get a rally crowd. He has laid his cards on the table, both during those 4 years that he was president and in this period electioneering. We know that he hates women, is anti-abortion, will bring about a national abortion ban, will seek to remove or reduce Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and do away with Obamacare. We know who he is. We know that he claims to close the border and will encourage migrants to be turned away, even those seeking asylum, a safe place in the United States. We know who he is. We know he gasses American citizens when they protest and doesn't believe in the free right to protest. We know he disappears people off the streets in unmarked vehicles with unmarked military. We know that he will extend the trajectory of a storm with a Sharpie on a board so he doesn't lose face. We know that he cheats at golf. We know that he's a fraud. We know that he is a sexual abuser and rapist. We know all this stuff. People didn't know all this stuff in 2016 when they voted for him, remember? But now they do. And I honestly don't believe that Donald Trump being almost shot is going to change how people feel about him. I don't think that there will be a sympathy vote because of that incident. And in fact, Judge Aileen Cannon dismissing this classified documents case is only going to make more people think, hang on a second, is that the kind of judiciary that I want? That is the corruption that comes with Donald Trump and the Federalist Society and all of those who went out of their way to guarantee that these 3 MAGA judges were packed into the Supreme Court whilst Donald Trump was president. And some are saying that if he was to be president again, he might increase the court to 12 and add more MAGA judges, which means that you will never get your rights back. Your civil rights, your human rights, your women's rights, all will be confined to history because Donald Trump does not care for anybody who doesn't look like him. If you're not white, if you're not wealthy, if you're not an oligarch, then you do not deserve a free pass. And that is the polar opposite to what the Democrats are offering. They offer freedom, democracy, human rights, women's rights. I mean, even things like, getting rid of student debt. It's so important, and it's something that Republicans are dead against. They don't believe that anybody should be given a leg up or any support. And so it's a simple choice at the ballot box in November. I don't believe that conservatives, traditional conservatives, not MAGA Republicans, I do not believe they will go into a polling place and see the choice between Biden and Trump and choose Trump, knowing everything they know about him, knowing the way that he even delayed his removal from the stage after he was shot at. Even that, to me, is a symbol that Donald Trump is a very dangerous man. He is a threat to democracy. He always has been, and it's only going to get worse. And he's going to use his assassination attempt to fundraise and to take advantage of that photograph. He's already been sending it around to, registered Republicans to ask for more money and to show him as this godlike martyr, when in fact, in reality, he's just a coward. So I do not think that he stands a chance of winning in November, but that doesn't mean that Democrats shouldn't go out of their way to campaign and to make a lot of noise. And I know that Joe Biden, in his address to the nation, said that we need to bring down the temperature. Being quiet about Donald Trump being a threat to democracy, that is not hate speech. That is just fact. And that is what we will continue to do. I'm Anthony Davis. You can hear me and see me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast. You can catch me on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with Midas Touch.